You both look very well lit. All right. I think I'll share the book cover for a couple minutes and then pass it on.
Sure.
Sounds good. We'll give everyone a couple minutes to get settled. All right. Still got a few people trickling in, but I'll just start with some really brief introductions. First off, hi, welcome. My name is Rachel Fowley-Neufeld. I coordinate events for McNally Robinson in Saskatoon. We are streaming this event from Treaty 6 territory, the traditional lands of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dene, Dakota, Lakota, Dakota, and Métis nations. We're so excited to have Tenille K. Campbell with us tonight to celebrate the launch of her maybe not, it's a celebration. We're celebrating her latest collection, Nedi, Nezu, Good Medicine. Thanks to Arsenal Pulp Press for working with us on this event. And of course to Tiniel for taking the time to be here with us tonight. We also have a very special guest host, Erica Violet Lee, who's gonna chat with Tiniel about her collection. Yes, everyone say hi to Erica. So I'm sad we can't do this in person, but it's still nice that everyone's on screen, and I see there's already some messages coming in from the chat, which is awesome. So Erica is gonna chat with Tiniel about the new book and guide us through some questions. There's a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, so please feel free to submit your questions using that. And I think, yeah, just thank you both for joining us, and especially during National Poetry Month, which is very exciting. So I think at this point, I'm gonna turn things over to Erica. So let's welcome Erica Violet Lee.
Anse, thank you for that introduction. So this is exciting for me because this is, I think, one of the first times I've been able to introduce Tiniel, who is one of my best friends. And we hang out a lot because we're in each other's bubbles, COVID bubbles. But this is a chance for me to actually get down to nitty gritty and ask some tough questions that I've never really gotten to ask in a formal setting. First, I want to introduce myself. I guess my name is Erica Violet Lee. I am Nehio. I'm a writer from Saskatoon, coming to you live from Treaty 6, the west side of Saskatoon. And I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today or tonight for this event to celebrate Tiniel's new poetry book, Nedi Nezu, just released with Arsenal Pulp. The title translates to good medicine and in the Denisutune language, one of Tiniel's ancestral and familial languages. Tenille K. Campbell is a Dene Métis author and photographer from English River First Nation in Treaty 10, Northern Saskatchewan. Her first acclaimed poetry collection, Indian Love Poems, through signature editions, was shortlisted for the Indigenous Voices Award. Her acclaimed poetry, Campbell is the force behind Sweet Moon Photography, which specializes in capturing Indian joy in its many forms. She is also the co-creator and a blogger at Tea and Bannock, an online collective for Indigenous women photographers and artists to share their stories. I still owe her a piece for that website also, by the way, calling myself out so she can't call me out. Campbell completed her MFA in creative writing at the University of British Columbia and is working on a doctoral degree in Indigenous literature at the University of Saskatchewan. So Tiniel is a very busy person, and I'm thankful that she makes time to hang out with me. So I think we're gonna start with a reading we had discussed. So I guess Tiniel, if you could read us some of your poems from your new collection, that would be awesome.
You're like, perform now.
Do it.
I'm working on it. Igladade Tanse. I've been sleeping all day, so my energy is still super low. And I just ran out to the car and back in like 5 minutes before. I was like, oh, my cardio for the day is done. But thank you all for coming. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to share the space with McNally and of course with Erica, aka Moon Moon, my best friend. And it's just fun to be doing events again. I think we all miss traveling, but this is a nice, what's the word? Not replacement, but a nice option. So nedi nezu came out of like Arsenal Pulp Press in March, my birthday month, in case I haven't told everyone yet. Um, and it's actually pretty funny because to me, Erica knows all the stories behind all these poems. So I'm kind of like, oh, this will be fine. She'll just call me on my shit. It'll be great. So let's see how that goes. Nedi nezu, as we know, is Dene for good medicine and was translated by my auntie Marge Reynolds out in English River First Nation. So thank you to her. And I never really have any readings picked. I just kind of go with what we got. But I just came back from a road trip trying to fall in love. Did not work. But I think the first poem is dear to all our Indigenous hearts. Uh, Snagging while Indigenous means road trips from res to res, 100 miles, a story in the making. Meeting grandparents, cousins, and aunties because there are no secrets among family. Snagging while Indigenous means bringing dry meat across borders, jars of canned fish clinking in the back seat, bags of frozen blueberries waiting to be handed to relations, ancient bribes for modern flirtations. Snagging while Indigenous means DMs and double taps, and casually saying, hey, I was just in the neighborhood. We should hang out. I know your cousin. Y'all, it didn't work. But I'm hoping to hear soon when I post that poem again, your guys' stories, because last time I posted a stanza of this, I asked everybody, what's the furthest you've ever gone for a snag? And y'all are thirsty. You have gone across the country. You have done some suspicious things. And I like it. I like it. I'm here for it. Oh, I don't know. I'm going to ask Erica later if she has favorites. So keep that in mind, okay? Um, I never wanted to dance. The drums don't call me home. Swirling ribbons and colorful beads have never entangled me. We don't all powwow, you know. But, 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 watching you, big drum singer, I want to dance for you. I can be sweet. Oh, on page 19, if we all are following along. Between
Teacher voice.
Yeah, I'm just like, between thick, pale thighs, you called me a feast, making me gush with words and a tongue licking clit, sucking marrow from bone. You were thirsty, and my desire quenched you. I do miss him. Oh, you guys, this is like a memory. This is just a trip down memory lane. Like, I'm just missing all the exes, all the would be's, all the could have beens, all the never agains. Hmm. Page 20. I want to taste your language. As you whisper it into my mouth, let my tongue lick and suck your vowels and consonants. You make me want to slow dance under moonlight and snowflakes, hand tangled in your hair, led down into heartbreak and hope. Make me your fry bread, make me your Indian corn soup, make me your candied salmon, make me your strawberry anything. Feast on me. And for those who want to fight with me, Indian corn soup is what my Anishinaabe friend called it, who lives on Walpole Island, and I'm going to stick with it because that's what she calls it. I'm not going to fight y'all on this. Oh, you guys, I'm going to read this crush one because it's too real. On page 25. Ugh, clown college, basically, you guys, but I'm going to read it. I don't want this. Crushed feeling, barely breathing, cheeks burning, smiling, can't stop torture. This is torture. How will you know unless you try? Spare me the cliche. He doesn't call, he doesn't text, he doesn't snap, he doesn't DM, he doesn't creep. This is a one sided story where my name doesn't cross his mind and I can't stop thinking about his smile. Phone in hand, don't text, don't text. I text. We all like to bury ourselves, you guys. It's a long story. There'll be poems about it in book number 3. Okay. I can do that one. I can do that one. That's a sweet one. Oh, yeah, let's go into section number 2. Okay, part 2, which is called Northern Lights. Falling into like makes my reds accent thick, my laughter loud, and my hair toss epic. Falling into like makes my eyeliner sharp, my lips glossy, and my earrings savage. Falling into lust makes my underwear silky, my t-shirts low, and my cleavage glittery. Falling into lust makes my scent tantalizing, my smile coy, and my hands searching. Falling into love lays me bare, walking in a room filled with the light of dawn, smiling at you, burying my face in a pillow as you pull me close, kiss me, and tell me I'm beautiful. Whatever. uh, you guys, you guys. Oh, this is a sweet one. Number 42. I don't have the sticker here, but maybe Erica has it with her somewhere. But anyways, remember a couple years ago, Chief Ladybird did this drawing. It was inspired. Erica's like, I got stickers. It was inspired off a section of this poem. And in it, like this beautiful indigenous couple are making love, but every time Chief Ladybird posted it, it got taken down because there was a tiny bit of brown peen, a tiny bit. And then whenever I posted it, I got taken down to the point where I got kind of kicked off. See, look at that. It's beautiful. Thank you, Chief Ladybird. Thank you, Brown Peen. Beautiful. So I always make sure to read this. Page 42. I want to be tangled in moonlight, wrapped up in northern lights, guided home by the North Star, trailing down Churchill River, hand in hand with you. I want to be tracing your stories, constellations of ink and scars, hearing your memories echo in the dark between dusk and dawn. I want to be your roots ensnared in sandy soil lush with moss beside hidden waterfalls, soft rocks smoothed over by running water. I want to be part of your joy, the smile on your face when you hear my name, the blush in your cheeks when you think of last night. I want to be your home, your land, your memories. He's the payak. Oh my God, you guys, sometimes I'm problematic, so I'm going to read this one. Page 47. Erica's like, what problematic poem? I'm like, you'll see. Do you think of her when you are so at home between my thighs, my accent thick in your ears, nezu? Do you think of her when you let me kiss your neck, leaving lipstick and love marks on your flesh? When I take you in my mouth and you moan, head rolled back, hand fisted in my hair? When you caress my breasts, biting oh so softly, just to hear me gasp? Do you think of her when you tell me you're single? Men are trash. I feel like I know what Erica's like saying. I hear you. I hear you. I'm ignoring you. I hear you. Oh, I like this one too. Okay. I'm gonna like pick like three more, and Erica, tell me like one or two that you like, okay? Because I can go forever. Because it's like story, story, story. Um, hmm. That one has a lot of Denny in it, and I'm not quite sure. Okay, this one. Page 53. It was the quiet moments between us that made me fall off the ledge. Into the northern lights, chasing Dene accents over tundra to taiga, stumbling over broken stars and broken promises. You didn't look back, didn't see me trip, fall down, and cut myself on the stories of how I used to love you. The snow crackled in the cold, sundogs danced with ice crystals. You were so far in the distance, you didn't see someone else's hand reach down and help me up. You didn't see when I stopped falling for you. Mm, 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 mm. Oh, this one. This one. This one used to always make me cry, but I changed it now so that I don't cry because I didn't want to cry at every poetry reading. But as some know and some don't know, I'm in my PhD at the U of S, and it has been an experience. And that's all we'll say about it for now. But yeah, I have fond memories and much love for learning in post-secondary environments, but also the realistic truth that it's often a traumatic and unsafe space for us. So I still write love poems towards it while acknowledging it's problematic. Anyways, page 59. Indigenous academia makes me ache. Talk with me. I want to hear vowels dripping from your tongue, mix in the words from your nation. It doesn't matter. I don't yet understand. I will learn. We're coming in waves, passing stories where we've been and where we're going. A hidden library nook, a quiet reading room, a safe place to let go, surrounded with people who laugh like you. Old travel knowledge for new ways. We're reclaiming space, singing songs from the land, low notes echoing down hallways, hand drum on your lap, long, lean fingers tapping the beat you constantly hear, making me dream beyond ivory towers. We're taking it, making it visibly, undeniably, irrevocably indigenous. Hey, here for the nerds. I'm a nerd. Erica's a nerd.
Yes, but so are you.
I say I'm happy about it.
I'm happy about it. You did write a sex poem about Indigenous academia, so I guess you are a nerd.
I'm like, I
You've
stand.
written a couple.
I've written a bunch. Like every
Yeah.
conference, I'm like, ode to the unnamed. And then I'll just go speak it on stage. I'm like, you're welcome. All right. Oh, this one. Oh my God. Billy Ray in the last event that I had with him had like interviewed me about this book, and he brought up this concept of like the Indian fuckboy that's present throughout this book. And I was like, oh yes, yes. And I think we all know versions of him. But yeah, this one definitely. Page 74. The night we met, I fell in love with the character you played. The white buffalo, the unicorn, the wet dream in indigenous form. Language dripping, fry bread glistening, beads dazzling, lips grinning. Nichimus, you made me believe. You didn't lie, I already knew you. My heart tripping along, falling, laughing. I wrote from nothing. So first dates mean last dates, secret girlfriends showing up amidst bathroom chats and knowing eyes, secret DMs and secret apps. I might still have your dick pic, but she's sitting in your lap. The night we met, I fell in love with the character you played. But really, who got played? I could name like a dozen guys right now who are like that, but I won't because Indian country needs some like calmness right now. We're like, wait for the live. Oh, where's that one? Oh, I know. Okay, these are like the last two that I kind of like to read on my end. And then we will take Erica's personal suggestions. All right, page 99. This is one of my favorite books in the poem. My favorite poems in the book. There we go. We need to sleep more, you guys. Thick indigenous women are spilt beads and tangled thread, worth the time to pick up to untangle. We are curves spilling stories against your lips. Our thighs are soft mushcake, protecting good medicine. Our skin soft as tanned hide, caress us with care as you are touching our ancestors' wildest dreams. Thick indigenous women are the feast during a long winter, canned raspberries, fresh bannock, warm butter leaking between your fingers. Come and eat. We hold joy in every round shoulder, laugh loudly, drawing all eyes. We squeeze against you, and you hold us tight, smiling at your blessings. Because thick indigenous women, we are magic, and if you aren't careful, someone else will pick up spilt beads and untangle threads. Oh my God, Erica's stupid story because I know he's not in here, but Erica was with me at this moment in time when I had posted this meme on my Instagram live, my Instagram story. And it was a picture of like a thicker woman, and it's like, y'all ain't ready for like a fat woman to change your life. Because like we're magic, right? It was just a meme. And we're in the Toronto airport, me and her, and we're sitting there, we're waiting for a flight as usual. Pre-2020 life. And this person who shall remain unnamed came up to us and was talking to us, but he knew us, and he looked at me. He's just like, by the way, I'm ready for my life to change. I saw your story. And it's the only time that I've ever been like struck dumb and had nothing to say. And I just like went red and I like looked away and I was like looking at Erica in a mad panic, like, help me. It was great, you guys. Men.
And in true Native fashion, that guy was my cousin.
But not mine. We were so close to being related, Erica. Okay, this is my one of my favorites again. It's the last poem in the book. Page 112. All right. A little bit of context. When I was writing this poem, it was kind of a retaliation because I had someone in my circle in my life be like, all you do is like write sex poems. Like, do you ever write anything else? And I was just like, oh, tell me you're not getting laid without telling me you're not getting laid. I was like, there's just so much layers to like sexuality, and it's not just about sex, obviously. And I tried to educate them, but I'm like, you know what, Tiniel? People are going to be on their journey and they're going to see what they need to see in this and they're going to take what they need to take. It's not my job to like save and educate everybody. But I was still a little petty and still a little like irate. So I wanted to write this poem. And here we are. 112. Sex, sex, sex. One trick pony she is. Baby, I got tricks for generations. The biggest trick is still being here, surviving, thriving, organizing. We still here. We echo and ripple, descendants pouring down concrete over pavement, babies cradled on hips, snug within cradle boards, wrapped in star blankets under protest signs. Justice for Colton, Tina Fontaine, Indigenous resistance. We don't have the luxury of not explaining to our babies why we don't wear black hoodies, why we don't take cabs alone, and why we don't trust cops. But we still here. Hands holding, mukluk wearing, tears spilling, laughter flowing, medicine in our very bones. Ancestors in our eyes as we gaze and catch feelings across citywide marches, seeing us and them and us, just tricks. Surviving, thriving, organizing. Yeah, we got tricks for days.
Yay!
Both of us happy.
That was great. Thank you, Tiniel. It's funny because I like marked all my favorite poems. Not all of them, they're all my favorite, obviously. It's like your children. You don't have a favorite Tenille Campbell poem. You love all of them equally. But I like the ones that I was gonna have you read, you read. So, except there's one obviously that resonated with me a lot. And it's called Urban Indigenous on page 105. And this one is just so much fun. So, and then my second request would be the poem right after that one, dedicated to Auntie Taja Beads, who just asked for an auntie poem. And I think that poem, We Aren't All Nice Aunties, is a great tribute to the bullshit a lot of our aunties are going through right now.
No doubt. All right, good one. Good one. Page 105. I'll tell the story afterwards. Urban Indigenous flirting with traditionalists means biting my tongue because asking you to check yourself equals lectures on gender roles. You don't understand, matriarchs come from everywhere, and this is all native land. Spare me your teaching when I comment about the weather. Miss me with the gifts of medicines bearing sweet shame and gentle condemnation. I can't walk with you in a good way. Just recognize the teachings I bring. Do you see the story between humble attitudes and broken hearts left on sidewalks? I don't walk in circles with the sun, know how to pray palms up, but that don't mean I don't see the ceremony that my body holds, skirt or no skirt. My feet still touch the ground, connecting me to mine, concrete or grass, latte in hand, and lip gloss glittering, still indigenous. If I wore braids tightly plaited in 2 rows, rocked a skirt, ribbons brightly flashing, would I be more worthy of your attention? I like my hair wild, laughing too loud, flirting too much, to never look you in the eye. Can you admit you like watching me? Mm, mm, mm.
She's feeling herself.
I am. I love that poem too. Well, you know me, like I still don't own a ribbon skirt, and that is not an invitation for anybody to send me a ribbon skirt.
You know what they should make? They should make like ribbon floggers. How come no one's been on that yet?
Yes. If anyone wants to make a ribbon flogger, like a little tiny, like just a little, like yes, Erica's a genius. I will do that. We will do that. This is a revolution. We're gonna, it'll be so good. Okay, now as I'm just like picturing it now. This is for Auntie Tasha and all the aunties out there. Page 107. We aren't all nice aunties, open arms and kind smiles. We don't all bake bannock, keep secret stores of dry meat and fresh blueberries. Some of us are called mean, our tongues spare no one. Fools tremble before us. Some of us are called city. We live under skyscrapers, walk in ivory towers with ivory people. Some of us are too much, too loud, too real. It's hard to take our love. But an auntie is an auntie, and the mean ones tell truth you don't want to hear, and the nice ones hold you when you break, and the quiet ones keep secrets whispered in the dark, and the loud ones match your wild stories, and the elderly ones watch us all, remembering the aunties who came before. I'm just thinking of like all my aunties now.
Thank you, Tiniel. That was great. Do you have any more you want to read off the top of your mind, or do you want me to ask you some questions? I just accidentally muted you. Wait. Okay, there. Now you're unmuted. I have far too much power.
Yeah, I'm like raising my hand. How about we chat a bit and
Okay.
yes.
All right. I do have some very hard-hitting questions for you.
Oh my. Okay.
There's a couple. First, I'm interested in, I sort of know this, but not entirely. Like, I know that you write your writing process as being another writer. I'm really interested in how you write, and I've seen you like write and sort of get like ideas and stuff, and how you deal with them when they arise. But your writing style is also a little different than mine in that I think you have a set time every day, or you try to make time every day,
Yes.
which is like, to me, the goal, but I don't think I'm there yet. So do you find that, what does your writing life look like? Do you have a set time each day, or is it whenever the muse strikes you?
With my first two collections, it was definitely centered around like lived experience and high emotional energy. And just even like my notes app in my phone is ridiculous. So just writing when I was inspired. But with this third collection that I'm working on, this is where I implemented a writing practice of kind of getting up a little earlier than I normally do, putting on some music that generally just has no lyrics because then I get distracted, just like squirrel. But some music and just setting a timer for like 10 minutes and just kind of free form writing, but always kind of with a goal in mind, whether it be a person I want to write to or a memory I want to write to, because the third collection is much more intimate and much more emotional. And I find it really hard to write because it's about womanhood and matriarchs and my best friends and my sisters and my nieces and my daughter and my mother. And how do you write about your mother and your daughter? Like, I don't know. So like I honestly like I find like for 10 minutes and then I'm like bawling. Like, so it's I don't know if it's been going good. I don't know if that's a good process. I don't know if we all need to cry in the morning. I don't know. But it's been getting the basic structure of ideas out of me and allowing me to be kind of vulnerable in a way that I haven't been before. So I'm both terrified of it and wouldn't recommend it, but it's working.
That's a good answer. Going back, I'm sort of thinking of these two books in tandem for the first few questions. Like, so this was the first book, the Indian Love Poems. What year did this come out?
2017.
2017. And so this is 2021. I can't believe it's 2021 already. What the heck?
2020 doesn't count.
Okay, so 3 years, give or take.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think? Actually, do you remember any of the first poems you ever wrote? Like, and were any of those poems in the first collection or the second collection?
No, I've been like writing poetry since I was like 11, right? So I still have those journals and every now and then I'll pull them out just to be like, oh, see, growth. But a lot of the first poems I wrote, I don't know, I connected with them, but I also felt kind of a disconnect because my writing often reflects my life. So one of the first published in an anthology book poems I wrote was about sitting at a Vancouver airport at dawn, and there's nobody around me, and it's like one of those private little bunkers. And I was like writing about the idea of sitting between home and home, like home in the reserve and home being a person. And like I read it again, and I'm just like, yeah, that was a good poem. Like the idea is still strong, but it doesn't make me. I don't think of it and I don't grin, and I don't want to share stories about it, and I don't want to constantly like relive this memory the way that these two collections I do, because I'll read them and then I'll smile and I'll be like, oh my god, remember? And you have been around with me forever. You're like, yes, Tiniel, I remember.
It's exactly like touring, like being a touring musician. Like last year, was it last 2 years ago? Oh my god, we went on a moon tour where we read our poetry and writing in a bunch of different places over in the East Coast, and I remember getting to hear and see Tiniel read these poems like night after night, and watching the set list change a little bit every night depending on what mood strikes you. And it was nice to see like um, how fresh some of the like all of the poems stay. And I feel like you do a great job of keeping like re-injecting energy into them, even if they're older poems, because of the stories you tell that go along with them.
Yeah. Right back when like Indian love poems started and I started doing these readings, I would constantly tell like context or backstory about it. And like I don't necessarily think that I'm funny, but I think that I'm truthful in a way that a lot of people aren't. And so I always get people being like, "Oh my god, you're so funny, you're so funny." And I'm like, "Am I funny? Or did I just like say something you thought and never would speak out loud?" And I remember a couple years ago when Indian Love Poems first came out, I got invited to this comedian show in Winnipeg. And I was like, what am I doing here? Because it was like a whole lineup of comedians. And then I'm like, I have like 5 minutes to go up and like warm up the crowd with my love poems. I was like, bet, got this. I'm ready. And I went out there completely like don't remember anything I said because I don't know about you, but sometimes I just like block the fuck out and I can't remember what I said. And then I come back and like my ears are ringing and I'm all flushed. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm not funny. I'm not funny. Like, mild panic attack.
You're so funny. I also like shaded you in the comments, but
I'm
you
like,
weren't paying attention.
I'm not.
um, no, the way the crowd, if you haven't never seen like Tiniel perform in person, the way the crowds respond to her is just like amazing. Like I've never seen another poet get that type of response. I'm thinking about like also one of my favorite stories to tell about Tiniel is like going around to different reserves and just like her selling her first book out of the trunk of her car, like to all the women who wanted copies or wanted to get copies for their boyfriends or whatever, boyfriends and girlfriends. And just like being in these small little assembly rooms or whatever at the local res, and everyone like at the start being like, oh my God, she's saying really like rank stuff. And then slowly opening up to it, and then they start cackling. So it
I
really
know.
lightens the mood.
My favorite memory of like first year, like first book is when it got published and I had like 100 copies in the back of my vehicle, right? Because like we don't have bookstores like in the north. Amazon doesn't deliver to our doorstep. Uh, but I went up north and I was on my reserve, like English River, and I went into the band office, the band hall, and they're having a community event. I don't know what for. And then the chief at that time, Labada, comes up to me and he's like, I heard you wrote a book. And I was just like, no, someone lied to you. Because he's my dad's age. He's my dad's cousin. Like, no, uncle, I did not write a book about Indian sex. No. And he's like, shh, you're a liar. Like, let me buy some and give it to the community. And, no, no, chief, that's not going to happen. But he did. He just slapped me some money and he's like, buy us 10 and give them out to the community. And I'm like, okay, cool, 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 cool. So that's how I ended up with like this hilarious, I'm not even sure like what it is, but this random videos of like all these indigenous people reading my poems. And it kind of started this like little side life of people sending me clips from Indian love poems of them reading and just like losing their shit laughing and blushing and teasing. And it just kind of showed me like constantly the power these poems have to kind of connect people, and how humor is just used to introduce this topic that sometimes feels a little taboo and a little, is she like really gonna say that? I'm just like, yes, I am gonna say clit. Uh, yeah, those are good times. Round two.
Awesome. So the next question I have is like a structural question, because one of my favorite parts about your first book was how almost like random notes. It was like random notes to a loved one, or random notes you would jot down to yourself and to remind you of experiences, because the numbers are non-sequential in the first book, for those who don't know. And in the second book, Nedi, Nezu, it's in 4 parts. So the 4 parts are language lessons, Northern Lights, broken treaties, and the land. And so I was wondering, what was your impetus for structuring the new book like that? And what do you hope the reader takes away from it in that sense? Like, why did you structure the book the way you did?
Nadine Zoo is definitely a little more political and layered than Indian love poems was. Indian love poems was like punch you in the face, funny, sexual, meant to be short and sweet and sound very much like you and your friends gossiping around the kitchen table, I'll say. And Nadina Zoo is, I think, are the conversations that happen once the lights go down and the kids are sent to bed and the real tea comes out. And it's a little darker, it's a little more layered. There's still a lot of joy and a lot of laughter because that's how we do. Um, but we're definitely talking about topics a little more than we did in book 1. So I structured it in such a way that the light, the funny, the short were at the start to be like, welcome in. Like, it's still okay here. And as we progress through, by the end, that's where the longer poems are. That's where the more political poems are. That's where the layered ones are. And I had snuck in a few more about like thick Indigenous woman, and there's another one about like thigh gaps on a plus size woman. Talking about self-love and body love and like loving yourself in a thicker body, because we're going to talk a lot more about that in book 3. But I wanted to definitely structure in a way that a reader could feel comfortable coming in and read along with us, even if they had never experienced Indian love poems book 1.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it's funny because you sort of led into my next question, which was that I see going through this book comparatively to the first poem or the first book. And I remember we've had like so many discussions about this because within like our writing together, people will sort of stereotype you as the sex writer or like the non-serious, non-political writer. And I've used your first book extensively in like my lectures and talking about political things. Like it's very theoretically rich to me. And I think it's very political. but there's, with the second book, Nedi, Nezu, it's definitely, it's more of a like explicit, overt political statement. There's more like obvious political statements in it. And it also reminds me a lot of Christos's work. And I know you've been studying Christos for your PhD. So do you think I love the way you characterized it. Actually, I don't know if you can characterize it better than that it's the conversations that happen after you sent the kids to bed. That's perfect. So given that, what do you think your next book, I know you sort of started on it, will look like or feel like in comparison? Like, just gonna keep getting more political?
As we do, you're like, come to the side. Yes and no. I do know like book 3 is definitely about womanhood and sisterhood and, you know, talking in the politics of fat phobia in Indian country, fat love, self-love, thick desire. And these are all just like real personal, obviously political things like under the indigenous realm, but also very personal. And I'm not writing necessarily to I feel like I'm writing for Airy in this next collection, which I'm like ready to cry now. But I feel like this collection coming up is the one where I get to tell her how much I love her and that she gets to hold this and know. And it's powerful and it's scary and it's terrifying. Because what if I fuck it up? And and I think that's a discussion we're also ready for. Like we can now, not now, we always could. There has been many, many indigenous desire poets before me, of course. Um, but now I'll say I'm in that part of my journey where I'm trying to connect all the parts of my being, from being a sensual, intelligent, thick woman to now integrating this idea of becoming an auntie in the most Indian sense, because I did not know that until recently. I did not feel old enough or wise enough to ever be called auntie. And becoming a mother, and what does that mean? And then being the daughter of a woman who is growing older, and how that care changes, and how now the responsibility of who is the adult taking care of who changes, and exploring all these ideas as well, what it means to be indigenous in this realm, to be Métis in this realm. So like it's a lot, I feel like, more bare, more raw, more natural, terrifying. Every poetry reading will just be me bawling. Okay, moving on. I can't talk about it anymore.
It's okay. So yeah, I like that you brought up Ari, who is your daughter, because I was thinking, while I was reading through this book and thinking of things I wanted to ask you about it, I was thinking about the Dene language and how important it's become for you. I think especially more recently, because Ari's been asking to learn Dene. And so it's an important part of your history and your life, and it's becoming an important part of hers as well. So as someone who's Cree and like tries to incorporate that language, like I'm not a fluent speaker, into my own writing. I know what a huge challenge it is to try to, and Susan actually made this comment too in her Q&A, about the process of indigenizing English, which is maybe not how I would conceptualize it, but I do think that Dene is such a tough language. It's such a like next level tough language. So I have such a huge respect for like it requires like training your mouth and tongue to make these sounds that are not anywhere in English, let alone Cree and Anishinaabe Mohin. and there's fewer resources and fewer speakers, and those speakers are further away from the city. There's so many barriers because of colonization to learning your language. So I'm wondering how you feel, like what your process has been coming to that language and realizing it as sort of an obligation, if you view that as an obligation, to learn more about your language, to claim your language as kin that has been stolen. And I know this is a serious topic, but I also know you have a lot of fun stories about asking Dene speakers to translate naughty phrases into Dene.
I'm like definitely of two minds of like our traditional languages. I, of course, as a non-language speaker, think it's incredibly important that we have access to it, that we have the opportunity to learn it, and all the good stuff. But also as an English speaker, I am completely against the shame that is put and the blame that is put on only English speakers who are Indigenous. And I'm not here for that. Namoya. Yeah, 12 years of Cree lessons. I got this.
Alas.
Yeah. But, so for me, learning parts of Dene and learning parts of Cree has been incredibly tough because I did grow up in Buval. I did take Cree from grade 1 to grade 12, but like I said, like very little has stuck. And with Dene, I didn't take any language lessons. So obviously my tongue doesn't work the way that it needs to work with Dene. And I've had like multiple people tell me like just to buy marbles and like roll them around in my mouth constantly with my tongue. And I'm like, this seems like a game I can get behind. And then I get in trouble. And I'm like, I'm just saying, no one has complained of my tongue before. Okay. So I do think that it is possible. But yeah, Ari has definitely instigated this need because she, being 9.5 now, has come up to me literally just months ago and was just like, Mom, I'm ready to learn Dene. And then the onus now is on me because I'm like, shit, me too, I guess. And also understanding, like, and as much as I love my father, that not every Dene speaker is a teacher. That is a whole other skill and that's a whole other level. And I'm just like, okay, like you and I need to find a teacher and we need to find access and we need to do this in a good way. And oh, damn, we need to buy marbles. But Ari being young, and you and I have had like rides around where she can do things and make sounds with her mouth that I can't. So she's got like this natural tonal structure already in place where I'm like, we are going to take advantage of this before you can't Lili because I can't Lili, but you can Lili.
Yeah, that's awesome. I guess I wanted to go back to Susan's question too. She asks, is reading your work aloud part of your revision process? If so, what does it teach you? Do you consciously work to indigenize English? Have you written any poems in specific response to the pandemic?
Okay. Reading out loud is a huge part of my revision process. I've always said I want it to be, especially with Indian love poems, I wanted to be read in a way like your auntie's speaking to you. I wanted it accessible. I wanted it to mimic the sound patterns of that I had growing up. And then with nedi, nezu, again, same kind of idea. We just worked on it. I often find that the edited poems, I won't read them the way that they're edited because I'll still read them the way that I originally wrote them in my head. So I'm not sure if that's my ego or if that's like the ancestors being like, oh, you sound like this, do it like this. But reading it loud is huge. Have I written any poems in specific response to the pandemic? Yes and no. There have been a couple very land-centric poems that I wrote early in the pandemic when we were all kind of just freaking out and not knowing what was going on and kind of the world is shutting down and we're all just sitting here like, oh my. Uh, so Erica and me and my daughter Ari would go on like these long ass hikes, and often we'd let Ari kind of take the lead which was dumb uh, because she's 9 and we're not 9. And she would bring us up and down on these like cliffs of Saskatoon. To one point, like we were kind of stuck at the bottom, and like Erica's like, "We could do this," and I'm like, "Just send like a helicopter to get me. Like I'm ready to like just sit here." Like I was ready to be rescued at the bottom of this ravine, and Ari is like running up, running down, running up to the point where I thought like Erica was gonna throw a stick at her. So I was like, "Just go, baby, just go to the top." Like Erica and I will get there. But it was after these kind of adventures where we come out covered in mud and trees and leaves and grass and like me like just always looking for ticks because I didn't grow up around them. So I'm convinced they're
Back to the
everywhere.
land, they said.
I know these urban Indians with like our flawless makeup just like emerging from the bush. And it was after these events that I'd write more about slowing down, and I'd write about spring, or I'd write about the breaking of the ice. But I found that it was still, there's a lot of people in my poetry. There's a lot of human presence in my poetry. And going back to the reserve was kind of the theme that took over in that collection. But yeah, it was a definite little twist, a softer, slower twist then.
Um, you are such a multi-talented person, and that is one of my favorite things about you. I think that we get along because we both do a million different things and are easily distracted.
Yes.
Especially with Tiniel doing her PhD. Like, I sometimes am like, oh wow, she's in a PhD program, and she's like managing to publish a book and another book, and like raise an awesome kid and be a photographer, like run a professional photography business, which I could have sworn at some point she was like, I'll put it on hold this year, but I don't know, maybe I'm remembering wrong.
The pandemic happened. I slowed down for like 3 months.
So and I think that a huge part of what your crowd and your crowd comes from the people that pay attention to your writing and like get involved with your work, and they truly get involved with your work. Like it's not stuff that people just read and then like read on their own or whatever. It's something where you want to like snap a picture of it and put it on your social media. It's like Instagrammable AF, and which is such a wonderful, accessible way to get poetry out there, to get like politics, these complicated politics out there, and to get just like snippets of joy out there. So anonymous attendee would like to know, that's creepy, but okay. Can you speak to your use of social media in relation to your creative process?
Anonymous, we're like, but who are you? Social media has, everyone has opinions about social media. I happen to love it. I like it. I'm like, this is what I had for breakfast. You're welcome. So I am that person for sure. But it has helped me grow tremendously, both as an author, as a photographer. There has been a giant leap in followers, aka community, once I started posting this poetry. And like I said, I'm not the first. There's so many authors who came before me, like Christos and Gregory Schofield, and they're all right here. Sorry, guys. Oh, Marilyn Dumont. Some of her poetry. Auntie. So there's like people have written about this before, but we weren't, or I didn't see necessarily a lot of online posting. I didn't see any Insta poetry. I didn't see any stanzas of this Indigenous erotica going up. And once I started posting this and just deciding to kind of like open myself up to that space of being, a face of Indigenous erotica, which is hilarious, both because like I'm chubby AF. So I had my own issues to deal with about being fat and a voice of desire. I'm just like, you're just gonna be a thick voice of desire. But it was still something to work through. And once it started getting posted and people started really like laughing and sharing and tagging like their snags and tagging their sneaky links and, like posting it on Facebook, posting it on Twitter, it kind of grew on its own. And to this day, people will tag me like, "Oh, this one like went viral over here. This one went viral over here," and I'm like, "Cool." Nobody told me, but I love it. Like as long as I keep my name on it, we're fine. So social media has definitely like opened up that gate. So I find like my DMs are full of women and people telling me love stories, telling me about their crushes, telling me about how they sent this poem to somebody they liked and they responded in a good way. And it's really a beautiful part to be part of so much like Indian love stories in that way. And I just can't wait to see what like Nedi Nezu does for people now. To see be like, okay, but does he go to a protest with you? Like, like we're gonna go beyond now. Like, let's go. Does he make like fundamental societal changes with you? Because that's cool.
I like that Tiniel is giving us like a new bar because like, to be honest, the bar right now is like so low
Hello.
that we can dream of bigger things like a boy who will go to protests with us.
Right? And like the funny thing is, and Erica knows this, so I'm like, I protest in spiritual form. Like Erica will be there hands on, and every now and then I'll show up and I'll be like, "Here's your Tim Hortons. Like, here's your Starbucks. Are you good? Ah, okay,
She
awesome."
brings the Starbucks to the protest and sells me out,
I know.
but I appreciate it.
It's nice and hot. You're welcome. But I still see how important that is. Like, you're right. The bar is so low. Like, some guy spelt my name right. I was just like, baby, like, so low. But also highly suspicious. Like, I had posted this on my Instagram story. If we see like the perfect guy who has a good job, who's incredibly good looking, and like says hi first, what are we like, happy or highly suspicious? We're highly suspicious because we don't trust. And it's funny, it's true. We need a higher bar. We need men and partners and people who, uh, you know, treat us like normal human beings. Like I'm not even asking for like the cliche romantic shit. I'm like, treat me like a human, like respect my opinion, spell my name right.
Ooh, that's real. Yeah, so do you consider what you do as a, I was gonna say multi-instrumentalist. You're a woman of many talents.
Yeah.
Do you consider what you do, as Adrienne Marie Brown would say, pleasure activism?
Would I? I think other people would. I don't necessarily know if I'll say there yet. I think right now I'm kind of, and I don't realize how rare this is until I talk to other people. Um, but I feel like in our circles, the artists, the photographers, the storytellers, the poets, we tend to seek a life of joy. Like writing gives us joy, reading gives us joy. We work in fields that give us joy, even if they're sometimes hard or traumatic or, it's real. That's what I find. And I'm cultivating a life of joy, be it with my photography or my poetry or my PhD. I promise I'll get joyful again. Uh, and all these, and tea and bannock, all these different things bring me such light and love and safety and community. And is it about pleasure activism? Is it about, I don't know. I don't know yet. But I think it's also really hard to like just kind of place ourselves in those spaces. Because the first time someone asked me, I was just like, I don't know. It's hard to take myself seriously. I guess that's that old imposter syndrome.
Yeah, One of the things that I appreciate about you the most as a person and a writer and someone who works in the realm of pleasure, if not necessarily a pleasure activist, and all the political connotations that has. I appreciate your, the way you are unafraid of, no, I shouldn't say unafraid because we're all afraid to some extent, but I hate it. That's why I hate it when people say, oh, you're so fearless. And it's like, I'm not fearless of anything. Actually, I'm quite afraid of many things. But this like pressure to be fearless that's put on like Indigenous women or Black women a lot of the time. But you take up so much, you command so much attention, like in a room, and just like with the confidence, and I love that so much. And I remember like one of the happiest memories I have of us like being like preparing for an event together was and there was like this very nice white guy who was like our wrangler for the day. And he came to our hotel room to come and pick us up, and we had like 5,000 pairs of earrings for like a week-long event, of course, because we just needed choices.
Exactly.
And like a bunch of different makeup palettes laid out, and we were talking about like heavy theorizing about being femmes in this space of academia and like writing. And he was like, oh, can we go now? And we're like, no, this is the ceremony, this is the ritual. Like, you don't understand. This is like a sacred practice to us. We need this time to get ready and get in the headspace of being able to perform, because it like takes a lot out of you. And you mentioned that this one, and I know which poem you're talking about when you said you had to change it so you didn't cry every time, which I didn't know until now. But yeah, so do you think you've like learned anything about yourself, or like I imagine like you've had to learn how to set boundaries really well because people probably get way too familiar with you because of what you write about.
Yeah. The boundaries thing was new. Like in terms of women, I was always, and I still am very open to hearing their stories and answering their DMs and going back and forth. I find that there's a very positive energy. But I really had to like understand that people, and men especially, held this very convoluted idea of who I was based on what I wrote in their head. I felt like women could see this and being like, sis. And men saw this and were like, a woman I could dominate. And it's like, settle down, bro. You can't even spell dominate. So that there was a lot of problematic DMs, and I'm not, and I have never been one of those people who feels like I have to answer everybody in my DMs, especially problematic men. So I'd like delete, but every now and then there's a person having an entire conversation with themselves, which I think a lot of women can relate to. Like, hey, heart face, fire, heart eyes, you're beautiful, heart eyes, love, heart. Like, shut the fuck up. Like, or here's my PayPal, like either or. No in between. But understanding that I had to put a boundary between what I was willing to give as a writer, as a sex speaker, and what I want to keep to myself. There was definitely like an epiphany, a moment. I wrote that article for CBC last year, 2 years ago, about taking a year off of sex, being a sex writer who wasn't having sex. And I never read the comments because I'm not an idiot. But one of my friends did, and she's like, "Do you want me to tell you about them?" I'm like, no, not at all. I'm good, thank you. And she was just like people have opinions, and I'm like, I don't care. And it was just like having the opportunity and the space to kind of put my foot down, saying, "This is my art. This is devourable. This is shareable." and this is my personal life, and you don't get to have a part of it, even though you feel like you're my best friend in this digital world. Like, if you don't know me, you don't know me. Good times.
Yeah, so given all that you've done so far, I think that you have given more than enough to the community. You've done so much for a lot of young people who are just coming of age, and yet older people too, who like older aunties who have never been in a room where people have talked about sex so casually, I think, and with such a light heart. So people of all ages, myself included, working to make it just a better experience, working to cultivate that confidence in yourself and in ourselves. And also just like not shaming people is such a huge part of your work entirely, which I think is so powerful. So tell me, what is next for Tenille K. Campbell?
So much, so much. I want to finish the thesis. I want to turn it into like a collection of nonfiction essays. I think it'll be great. I want to finish the third book of poetry, this matriarch collection. I think that'll be great. I'll cry all the time. You'll hold my hand. It'll be beautiful. I'm working on a photography project right now, funded by Sask Arts Board, about Indigenous desire through a female gaze. So, what I look for, or moments of desire I'm exploring through photography with Indigenous men and people. And that has been amazing. Basically, like getting to going around shooting like gorgeous people and calling it art. I'm like, this is my life. This is great. And then apparently learning nedi sometime this year. That was put on the list by my daughter. So it has to be done. And yeah, so many things I want to do. Getting a vaccination shot. Y'all, we're all getting vaccination shots, right? Okay, cool. That is list. And the minute we do, Eric and I are buying a ticket to Toronto and visiting our friends. Just so many things, possibilities.
We signed up for our vaccinations together because true best friend things.
Right.
I think that's all the questions that I had for you. If McNally wants to come back in and ask anything or wrap things up. Anybody?
Rachel's like blushing.
We could just keep talking forever.
I mean, I think I could honestly sit and listen to you talk like forever, but for tonight, we'll wrap it up. Thank you both so much. That was amazing. And I'm gonna just drop the link for Tiniel's book one more time in the chat. And yeah, I just want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Make sure you also keep up with Erica's work at moontimewarrior.com. And congratulations, Tiniel. And I can't wait until book number 3. So
Thank
have a great night,
you.
everybody. Take care. Oh, and also you can purchase the book through us. I can't forget that part. But if you are not near McNally Robinson, please ask your local bookstore to order it in. Yes. Thanks again. Take care, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.